This video explains how we can do the WebDriver configuration. So let's get started. In webdriver.configuration.js file, you can configure the WebDriver, and there are a lot of settings that you can do here. First one is automation protocol. So if you can tell, if you want to automate the Chrome, if you want to use the DevTools or normal Selenium WebDriver protocol. With DevTools, it is much faster. So if you want to do that, you can use this property automation protocol as DevTools. Then there are some settings related to the Selenium server. For example, hostname is equal to localhost. So this is the default setting. Then port is also there. The default one is this one. And then path of the Selenium server. So if your Selenium server is acting as a hub, then most probably it will be like this one. But it can be empty as well. So you don't need to make any changes here. By default, it will take those settings, and you don't need to worry about that. Next one is user and key. If you are trying to run the tests in Sauce Labs or Browser Stack, you will have to use this user and key. So user is basically the user registered with the Sauce Labs or Browser Stack, and key is authentication key that will be required to connect to Browser Stack or Sauce Labs. So user and key are two parameters or properties that you need to use. If you are running locally, you don't need to worry about those properties. The base URL is the URL of the application under test. Next one is the runner is local by default. You can keep it like that. Next one is specification. So this is very important. Here we are telling what tests you want to run. So here I'm giving the directory path and then file name. If you want to run all the tests under specifications directory, you can put star.ts here, and then it will run all the files, ts files in that particular directory. Next one is exclude property. Here you can specify like what files you want to exclude. Especially if you're using the glob pattern, then it will select all the files, but with exclude you can specifically tell, okay, do not execute the tests in these files. Next one is capabilities. Here we request on which browsers we want to run the test. First property that is important is max instances is 1, or it can be any number. Basically what happens is that based on number of capabilities like Firefox or Chrome, it will launch that many processes. So if you have 10 files, it will launch 10 processes, and it will run the test simultaneously. So if you want to run the same test in Firefox and Chrome, and there are 10 files, then it will launch basically 20 processes, 10 into 2. So that's why this setting is there. It is just to run the test in parallel. Next one is capabilities. Here we specify what browser, what platform, what version we want to run the tests on. Here again there is a max instances setting. This is basically applies to the browser. Like when we say browser name is Chrome, then how many Chrome should be launched. So here we can do the cap on that one. Then browser name is Chrome. You can also specify other browsers if you want to run Firefox or Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer, Safari, and Opera as well. All these browsers are supported by WebDriver. Then log level you can set. There are different types of log levels like trace, debug, info, warn, error, silent. So you can put it info or whatever you want. If you want to get more information, you can put trace. If you don't want any information to be displayed when running the tests, you can put silent there. Next one is you can also set the log level for different types of log providers or loggers. As you can see here, there are different types of loggers here. Apply tools, Mocha framework, local runners, Monoshift, CLI, WebDriver, sync, and all that. So here you can give this setting like what level of logging should be applied to that particular logger. Next one is bail setting. Here we specify actually after how many number of tests have failed, we should stop the run. By default is 0, that means all tests will be run. It means do not bail. Here they have given this description as well, like what is the significance of this property. If you only want to run your tests until a specific amount of tests have failed, use bail. Then wait for timeout. Here we have given the default timeout for all the wait for commands, which you can change if you want. Connection retry timeout and connection retry count. These two settings are related to the server. So when we send a command to the server and the server doesn't respond, after how much time it should retry the connection and how many times it should do the connection. So these settings are there. Then services, Selenium standalone service is required if you want to start the Selenium server and then download Chrome driver or a Gecko driver automatically, or Internet Explorer driver or Edge driver. So here you can specify in the install arguments property, you can specify what drivers you want to install automatically. So here you can give the Chrome and then version of that Chrome driver, and Firefox version of that Firefox driver. Remember that these versions are of the drivers and not the actual browsers. Then for the Edge, this is the version. For Internet Explorer, this is the version, and architecture is also required for the Internet Explorer. Base URL from where we want to download it. Then arguments. So these arguments are required, which tells like which browsers or drivers needs to be started. So here you can give any number of drivers. Like for Chrome, there can be multiple driver versions, so you don't need to start all of them. You can start specific version here, like I want to start the Chrome driver with this version, I want to start with Firefox or Gecko driver with this version, then Internet Explorer with this version. So all these settings are there. So this is the automated setup. You can also start the drivers manually as well. For example, here this is one property, Selenium arguments, and then Java arguments. Here you can specify download the driver manually and then specify that path here. For example, if you download Edge driver, you can give the path there. You download the Chrome driver, you can give the path of that Chrome driver there. So that way you can have more control. Like sometimes what happens is when you do the automatic setup, the driver is not downloaded properly and then you might face some issues. So to avoid that, you can use this alternative way to start the drivers. Next one is framework that we want to use. To run the tests, we need testing framework, and in JavaScript world, Mocha is one of the most popular framework. So we are using Mocha, but you can use other testing frameworks as well, like Jest or any other framework. Then in the reporters, we can specify what kind of reports you want to generate. By default, the reports are created in the spec format, which is displayed in the terminal, but you can also create the XML report as well using this syntax. There Mocha options. Here you can specify what types of options you want to pass to the Mocha testing framework. Here remember that we are using TypeScript, so we have configured the Mocha with the TypeScript using these properties. And lastly, we have got hooks. So hooks allow you to execute certain code before and after tests are executed, or sessions are created, or entire test execution is started, or before each test. So you can see here all these are commented out, but you can uncomment this and write your own code there. For example, if you want to execute certain tests on prepare hook, you can use code right here. Then there is on worker start hook is there, before session hook is there, before hook is there. They are given this description as well, like what is the purpose of this hook, or at what point of time this hook will get executed. One of the most frequently used hook is this one, before a test. So let us say you want to log before running a test, saying that okay, we are starting to execute this test, and this is the test context. So that way you can get more description or information in the log as well. So that's all in this configuration file. There are a lot of things that are configurable in this file, and if you have any questions, more doubts on this configuration file, let me know through the comments. Thanks for watching this video.